We didn't need to have another sale at all in order for us to pay everything and put some money in our pocket. And that's when life got easy. That's when we could sleep at night. That's when we could take time off, when we could work on the things that we should be working on, not throwing Hail Mary campaigns just so that we can get cash in the business. And that's been a big, big part of what we try to teach other agency owners to do from day one. Because it's super easy to go after that big money and it goes in your pocket and you're excited, right? But then it's gone. And you got to get another one, and another one, and another one.
Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhner. So none of you listening to the show can say I don't give you great value. Not only do we have one guest, but we have two guests today. We have Mike Schmidt and Rivera, who are the dynamic duo behind AgencyCoach, a coaching team using real-world experience and expertise to propel digital agencies to unparalleled success. So their mission at AgencyCoach is to revolutionize the agency landscape by equipping entrepreneurs with the tools, strategies, and mindset necessary to thrive in the ever-evolving digital sphere. Yeah, everyone in this space needs a lot of help there. So before I say howdy to Mike and to AJ, I'm just going to say AJ started his career at Anchorwave when digital marketing was in its infancy. So this is the pre-TikTok days, or as I say, before ChatGPT. So BCT, something like that. Anyway, and he's built a multimillion-dollar 20-member agency that's built over 2,000 websites and hundreds of digital marketing campaigns. And then there's AJ. So welcome, guys. That was a joke. Sorry, AJ. And then there's AJ, who's his corporate sales experience to Anchorwave in 2008. And AJ is known for his innovative sales and abundant thinking approach, which has led the agency to win multiple awards. So with an intro like that, I mean, welcome, guys.
Hey, thank you so much. Glad to be here. Man, I didn't know we did all that cool stuff.
It's always good to have a reality check every now and then. So let's just go into it. What do you guys do? So AgencyCoach, I mean, it says in the name AgencyCoach. So let's just break down, why did you guys come into being, and why agency coaches? Why not just run an agency yourself?
Yeah. So we have run an agency ourselves for a long number of years. Started way back in 2003. And like you mentioned, it was BCT. It was also before Google was the top search engine, before YouTube was a thing, before Facebook was a thing. We weren't carrying around these smartphones in our pockets. So very much for me, it was kind of by accident starting this. I mean, in the sense that it was my best and maybe only option to stay here in Tucson, Arizona, where I had just finished up university, was meeting, I was dating the girl who'd become my wife. I was playing in a band, and I just didn't want to leave. But the prospects for a web designer in 2003 here in the desert was very grim. So started a business at the advice of my dad, hoping that I would somehow be able to make a living and pay the rent. And we've done much more than that since then. Today, like you mentioned, a team of 20 folks, built thousands of websites for just about every type of business that you could imagine, digital marketing campaigns. 2015, well, back up, 2008 is when AJ and I crossed paths, and he helped me majorly in the business. And 2015 is when we felt like we'd slayed all the dragons and said, you know, what do we want to do? How do we want to continue forward? And for us, it was coaching and mentorship. You know, we didn't do this business by ourselves. We'd got a lot of help along the way, but we were ready to help some other folks and carry the mantle of that coaching forward. And that's kind of brings us to today, having the opportunity to coach thousands of agencies from around the world, but also share some of our ideas in stages and podcasts just like this. So that's what brings us present.
So I had a look at your site, and I lecture in digital marketing, and we did a class on landing pages. And I think if anyone wants to look at what a great landing page looks like, they need to go onto your website. And I want to pull out a couple of key things. The first thing that you see as you open up that website is get more clients. And I love it because that's okay, it's not just getting more clients, because I think this is going to go into the other value that you add, which is getting recurring payments from those clients. So, yeah, maybe chat about, we can go through that website and just, I mean, there are some other great things here. I just want to touch on, for example, we work on the business and not in the business. So a couple of really nice little nuggets there that sort of explain what you do.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say the majority of people that come into our world, all the agencies, they all think that they just need leads, right? If I had more leads, then that would fix all my problems and everything would be gravy. And the truth is that most of them probably need other things, right? They need to do a better job of nurturing their leads. They need to do a better job of closing their prospects. They need to do a better job of building recurring revenue and not doing one-time projects. But we tend to lead with leads because that's oftentimes what they want. And then once they're in our world, we start to show them that, hey, there's abundance of opportunity all around you, right? Like there's so many agencies that, we call them order takers. They're just sitting there waiting for somebody to ask for something. And maybe somebody comes in and says, hey, I want a website. Cool, I'll do that. I want SEO. Cool, I'll do that, right? But then they don't ever really sell them anything else. They don't get more wallet share. They don't build recurring revenue. For a long time, we were that agency. We used to go and hunt the big one-time projects and, trying to sell a bigger and bigger website. I remember, I closed this casino website that was like a six-figure website. And Mike and I were like high-fiving. We're like, oh, our problems are over forever. We got all this cash. And like, no, we're not going to worry about payroll or any of these things. And it wasn't 4 or 5 months later that we were starting to look at that bank account again and it went back down. And we're like, what the heck? What happened to all that money? Where did it go? And that's a huge theme of what we talk about, because what we learned after that, we went to our accountant and said, there's got to be a mistake. We just made the most money we've ever made from this huge project and it's all gone. Like, what happened? And she ran a report that was like pretty life-changing for us. It was the top 20 clients that we had for the past 5 years. And I was wholeheartedly expecting Casino del Sol to be number one on the list, but it barely made the top 20. And guess who was number one? It was this orthodontist that had been paying us $2,000 a month for the past 5 years. It was an AC company that had been paying us $2,000 a month for the last 10 years. A plumber that had been paying us $2,000. And so those were just kind of happening. We weren't necessarily intentionally going after like digital marketing campaigns that were more on a recurring basis. But once we saw that, we're like, geez, instead of high-fiving these big one-time projects that came and went, we should have been focused on the projects that were going to build recurring revenue. Because after that happened, Mike and I put a 100% focus on that. And within a year, we built the agency to a point where day one of each month, we weren't starting at zero anymore, and we weren't having to go out there and get all that month's expenses and payroll. All those things were paid, right? We didn't need to have another sale at all in order for us to pay everything and put some money in our pocket. And that's when life got easy. That's when we could sleep at night. That's when we could take time off, when we could work on the things that we should be working on, not throwing Hail Mary campaigns just so that we can get cash in the business. And that's been a big, big part of what we try to teach other agency owners to do from day one, because it's super easy to go after that big money and it goes in your pocket and you're excited, right? But then it's gone and you got to get another one and another one and another one. And that just gets old.
Well, I think we can wrap it up here, guys, because if people just listen to that, they would have got tremendous value. Because I can give an example of myself. I brought in a lead generation company and I was suffering from success. I had so many leads and couldn't do anything with them. I didn't have the resources. I couldn't give them enough attention. And because I was so excited about going after new business, the guys who were generating cash money, it wasn't, some of them was quite decent, but others it was like, okay, well, we're a bit bored of them. We've been working with them for 2 years, 3 years. And you kind of like looking at, don't to disparage wives and partners and that, but you see the same person every day and it's like, something else looks exciting, but you forget what awesome thing is at home. And sometimes you just need to put a bit more attention, a bit more love. And, what you can get out of that is way more than you can get after running after new clients.
Yeah, it's true. There's so much gold in people's backyards, and that's something that we often find. Like AJ mentioned, there's a lot of people coming to our world looking for new leads, and you pointed out that the first thing on our site is get clients. Well, sometimes getting clients is about getting more wallet share from the clients that you're already working with. And any business who doesn't have a significant amount of attention on how they can go back to existing clients and grow their contracts and grow their revenue with them is missing out on the source of the easiest amount of business that you can get. I mean, I see too many businesses waste their time and efforts and energy and money on new lead generation strategies when they haven't really maximized the opportunity with the people that they're already working with. And, it's a shame because you spend all this time, money, and effort to try and get in front of these people. And some of them you've closed for good projects, but like, what's to say that they wouldn't work with you more, and why aren't you going back there? So that's a common thing.
Well, that's an important point, because perhaps if you're not getting return income from these clients or generating more out of them, you're not doing a good enough job. And maybe you've got to change something.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of times it's just that people don't have the process in place to even have that next conversation, right? Like there's been a lot of times where maybe we built a website for somebody, and at the time that I sold that, they're like, yeah, and after we're done with this, we'll do some other things. And the website was built, it launched, the team launched it. I kind of didn't even think about it or know about it. And then a few months later, I get a call from the client saying, hey, can I have the login information for the site and analytics? And I'm like, well, what do you want that for? Well, we just hired this company to help out with our SEO. And it's like, we do SEO. And they're like, oh, you do? And it's like, you think that clients know what you do and that maybe you talked about it, but guess what? They forget, and you need to stay top of mind. And it was an uphill battle for us and our sales reps all the time to have them go back to existing clients and meet with them again and suggest additional services, because they're always excited about that new person coming through the door. Like you said, I used to love that part of it, getting to know a new business, maybe going to their facility, doing a tour. It's like, felt like How It's Made or Mr. Rogers or something, where you're getting that behind the scenes look, and it's fun and it's exciting. But we eventually got to the point where we took that off of their plate. We started having another person on our team schedule those meetings with existing clients, because a salesperson is going to go to a meeting that's on their calendar. That's going to happen every single time. But if you took it off their plate, then we can make sure that happens on a more consistent basis.
So, good point there, AJ. Now, Mike, you mentioned a 6-figure website build that you did. This industry is changing at a heck of a rate. When last did you sell a 6-figure website? And is that the kind of business you're after? You mentioned that you started out before Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. How are you helping, or how are you coaching agency owners to get ahead of the next trends and say, okay, people, I was in the brand business. We used to sell $200,000 brand manuals. Do you think I can sell a $200,000 brand manual now when you can download it off Figma? The likelihood is real low. So how are you helping companies who have done well, for example, in website marketing and SEO, but those revenues are going down because there's new technologies, there's new things coming out?
Yeah, I think, in our career, we've not sold. That's the exception, right? We haven't sold a lot of, $100,000 projects in one shot. And we used to think we had to do that. And that's kind of the whole point, is that we were walking up to opportunities expecting to hit, a grand slam on every single one. We had to go find the big whale, the big client. And that's just tough. And you're right that the advent of all these technologies and everything making it a lot easier, and also the average consumer becoming much more adept and capable, that the things that they used to find value in, suddenly they don't, or they're doing themselves, getting for much, much cheaper. The truth is, there's lots of clients out there that are willing to pay lower amounts of recurring monthly subscription, so to speak, to the things that you can do for them. And it's more of like a stair step of growing those contracts over time. So do we sell $100,000 contracts? Yes, all the time. But usually that's in the form of a $4,000, $5,000 a month client, as opposed to getting that giant inked deal for this big stack of cash. And truthfully, I like the recurring way better because I know it's coming in. And I know that there's those people that kind of hang on to the old way of doing it and saying that they're looking for the big payday. But it's kind of like Lego pieces that we stack up, one block at a time, that all of a sudden we've got this big stack of recurring revenue that means something to us. And we, back in the day, we operated under what would be kind of known as the feast-or-famine business model, which is periods of time where the cash was coming in, the big project came in, we would do the work, but what would we do? We would stop marketing ourselves. And then as a result, when that project was finished, there would be no new project in the pipeline coming down the line. That's the way that I thought business was supposed to work early on. But what recurring revenue did is it allowed me to stack projects and, make the decision of, do I want or do I need to get more projects this month? Or am I happy with where I'm at? I used to say yes to projects that were bad projects. They were terrible fits because they were good money, right? And that's a really bad spot for, I think, any business to be in, where you have to say yes to the project because of the financial situation that you're in. But it's like when you have recurring revenue, and it's covering your expenses and putting money in your pocket, then you're able to say no to the things that don't fit, and your quality of life is going to get much, much, much better. It's like the equivalent of like having FU money, right? It's like, go away, you can't pay me enough to do this work because I don't need it, right? And there's a big difference between getting to do projects and having to do them, and recurring revenue unlocks that. So I think, are those projects out there? Could you find somebody that would be willing to pay $200,000 for a brand identity guide? I mean, maybe, but like, never found them, and I'm sure they're out there. But it's like, I could also go dig in my backyard and see if there's gold in it, right? There might be a big chunk of gold there, or I can have a system for picking up all the small pieces of gold that are everywhere and pile those up. And like, you ask me every day of the week, I'm going to do the latter.
Now, Mike, you bring up two important points I want to discuss. One is saying no to shitty clients, and is the importance of being organized if you are going to have recurring clients. Because what that means is you've got to have systems, you've got to have structures, you've got to have staff, or you've got to have some kind of processes in place. So that's, just put that on one side. And the second one is, it's very easy to say, you've got to say no to bad clients or projects that you don't think fit. But imagine you're a business that is trying to pay the bills, payroll, as you mentioned. And all of us, our horror is looking at the end of the month and going, damn, how am I going to get payroll? I'm going to just take this client. And then it is a nightmare. How do you coach somebody to say no to these clients when it's cash money?
Right. I mean, it's a progression, right? Like, when we discovered and had that aha that recurring was where we wanted to be, it wasn't as if we could start saying no to clients. And we had to get really strategic about how we did this. So, we had some clients where we focused in on, rather than selling them this big upfront project, we would purposely sell them a monthly recurring, right? So we would blend one, and honestly, it was sometimes random. Like, one client would come in and we pitch them on the recurring thing, right? And we would get, $1,000 right now, but $1,000 every single month after that. The next client that came in, like, we'd say, listen, oh man, we need to balance this out. Like, we can't pay the bills with $1,000, but I'm going to ask them and we're going to do 10 grand upfront right now. Right. And they would give us 10 grand. So we kind of had to do this dance, and it was different for us because, at that point we had a sizable team that we weren't eager to part with. So we had to kind of figure out how we were going to build up the recurring in this logical way. And yes, during that time, we did say yes to maybe some projects we wouldn't otherwise said, but in time, we were able to blend the ratio differently, where the majority of the people coming in were these recurring offers that we would make, and very few of them would be the upfronts. And to the point, eventually we could say no to all the upfronts. And so once our recurring revenue was greater than our expenses, which, by the way, if anyone wants to know the mathematical equation for financial freedom, it's monthly recurring revenue greater than your expenses. It's very simple, right? Not so simple to achieve, but that is a very simple idea. Once we are able to reach that, any project that smelled weird and we're like, this guy's a jerk, or their expectations are unrealistic, or we don't even like doing that kind of thing, we could easily say no, or refer them to somebody who could handle that, and maybe even get an affiliate referral relationship out of that. Whereas before, we'd be clawing so hard at that thing to try and see if we could fit it into our system. And let's face it, when you fit bad projects and bad clients into your system, not only do you suffer, but the client doesn't like it either. It's really bad for everyone. So that's how you escape it. That's the method. It's not an overnight thing, but you have to start with the decision of, I want my monthly recurring revenue to be greater than my expenses.
I've got a third option for you there, which is charge double for those crappy clients. So then if you're going to have the suffering,
maybe, yeah,
at least make it financially worth your while. So that's what I've done before.
I don't know. I mean, well, double, it'd be hard to do double, to be honest. How much is your sanity worth?
There's always a number, because, for example, Kamala paid $10 million for Beyonce to talk for 3 minutes. I mean, she...
It's true. I mean, with her, I wonder if that really, like, does 10 million really, like, does she blink at that?
I was just listening to Joe Rogan, and he's saying, between Beyonce and Jay-Z, they've got like $2 billion between them. $10 million basically refuels the jet. But I just want to take a quick break to talk about our sponsors. And today it is the Wunderbrand beard growth formula. And you can see I haven't started using it yet, but Mike has, and AJ's been using it for 3 months. And you can see how
Big difference, huh?
So we're going from, yeah. So that just looked, there's some really great beard growth going here. So I appreciate guys with beards. So let's go into the next part of my question, because I do ask these long-winded questions sometimes. If you've got recurring revenue like this and that's how you're building your business, you need to be really structured, because you can't have different quality outcomes at the end of the month. And it means that you've got to have some continuity with staff or processes if you've got a client staying with you for 12 months, etc. How do you manage that? A once-off project, you can get in a couple of guys and then fire their ass once the project's done. You can't do that with recurring revenue, right?
Yeah, so one thing that we realized along this journey is when we first started the agency, we very much were like into this idea of Mad Men. We wanted to have this huge building with all these people running around and Mike and I drinking all day or whatever, I don't know. And, as we started to grow the team, we started realizing like, I don't want 100 team members, right? Like we were at like 25, 30. I'm like, gosh, there's a lot. There's just so much added interpersonal stuff and management and equipment and space,
HR.
all these different things. And HR. So we were just like, gosh, this seems like a lot. And so one of the things that happened along this journey was we found out that there was about 85, 90% of our staff that was basically building a competing business while working for us.
What nonsense!
And they were even having clients
Hey,
drop
don't
off
laugh at
checks. They were having clients drop off checks. They were doing work while they're working for us and all this stuff, right? So we had to like fire them. We had to fire pretty much all of our production team. And I think there was like 3 of us that stayed. And we weren't the 3 people that could execute on all the work that we had there, right? And so we had to get really creative really quick about how we were going to get this stuff done. But it was actually a blessing, because what we realized was that it was hard to find one person that could replace one for one these other people, right? But we could find people online that could do just one piece of the puzzle, right? Like maybe this person, all they're going to do is keyword research for SEO. This person's going to write blogs. This person's going to do link building. This person's going to do citations. And it was because we did that we realized, like, geez, that really fixed a lot of things, because it allowed us to break up this service, this agency productized recipe that we had, into the smallest component that we could go out to somebody and say, how much would you charge for this, just this one thing, right? Instead of hiring the SEO expert that did all those things and would charge us a bunch for that, we were able to get them a lot cheaper. And so that was the birth of what we call the leverage service model, where, gosh, we don't really want to be doing any of the work inside of the office. The people that we hire as actual employees are the customer-facing people, but they act more as just the project coordinator, right? They're the one talking to the client, and then they're the one talking to these leverage service partners who, by the way, only get paid when we get paid, which is way different than it used to be. It used to be have an SEO person, we get super busy, they're like, I can't take on another client, then you hire another one. Well, guess what? It's not like your revenue just doubled, so your margin just got cut in half. And we're constantly playing that game, and capacity is like the biggest killer of your margin. Once we were able to start to pay people only when we got paid, it fixed all of our profit margins. It allowed us to simplify things. That's another big piece of your question here, is that we used to go really deep with all these custom digital marketing solutions and like, hey, come in and we're going to be a strategist and let's figure out this unique formula for you. Now it's not like that. We have a menu of services. We only go so deep, and these are the things that we offer. Something more than that, that's when we say no to that, right? Because the truth is that most businesses aren't doing the basics. And we've taken the stance, we hit the easy button and said, cool, we're not going to go deep with some of these things. As one example, we won't do national or international SEO, right? It's just a whole different game than like local SEO. And that's just one way that we've done that, right? And so if somebody needs that, cool, we've got a person that you can work with. That's not us. And it's the willingness to like focus on these things that are repeatable and then build a team around those that allows you to stay profitable and not have as much reliance on certain key employees that are holding all the keys and the only ones that could do certain things.
Yeah, I've lived through that experience. And you talk about the madman experience. I got a taste of mezcal when I was running Underbrand in Johannesburg.
Oh,
We
nice.
had a whole floor of a building. We were in the coolest part of town, and we lived that madman life. But yeah, once you get to 20 staff, your business changes fundamentally. Then you need to be organized. You need HR, you need finance, you need production. And because we're in a service industry, the highest expense we have is people. And you can't just keep on adding people because, if a client leaves or somebody's not a specialist in oil and gas and you've got an oil and gas specialist, you're in trouble. And that's what I say to all of my clients now. As I say, we are a traditional agency. We bring in best in class people to solve your problem. I don't have an oil and gas specialist sitting next to me, costing me money every month, waiting for you to come in. And I'm very honest with clients. So I say, I'm going to get you the best person to do this job. You don't know them. I know them. I've got my black book. We're going to get this sorted out for you. And Mike, AJ, you actually bring in another point, which is finances. And this is where a lot of agencies just completely mess up. A lot of them are creatives or good salespeople, but don't know how to budget, don't know how to say, okay, let's, as you said, Mike, earlier, get an upfront payment, or do we split it over 12 months, and how do we work that in order to make sure that we can cover our costs? How much do you go into actually structuring the financial side and payment terms that agencies create for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, we go into quite a bit of detail, right? And ultimately, we want to help them. This is true in our agency and the folks that we've helped, is that we all have costs of doing business, right? And the better that we can define what those costs are, the better that we can build what our pricing and our investments are going to be for our clients. And that just really highlights what you were saying about needing a process, right? One of the things you just said about the black book, there's a perfect person that I know, and there's this black book of things that I can go get the right person on the team for you. I mean, to me, that sounds expensive, right? And we don't know it kind of dances around this idea of what we call a snowflake project, where we're going to customize this very specific thing for you and you alone, and it's going to be the only time that we ever create this thing. I imagine Michelangelo crafting the David, he only ever made one of those, right? And he got paid maybe a bunch of money or whatever to do that, but it was a one-off gig. For us, we're very much looking at how can we attract clients that need the same kind of stuff, right? McDonald's isn't known for the best hamburger, but it's probably known as the most consistent. And people get a little antsy when I say that about agencies, because the first time I said that to one of my team members early on, she was like, Mike, I didn't get into this business to be making the McDonald's of websites. And that was kind of missing the point. That's fine. If you want to be the Taj Mahals of websites, that's freaking great. Let's do that, but let's do it in a consistent way. I think most agencies, they're just pulling it out of thin air, right? Oh yeah, I'll figure it out. And then the client has a request and okay, they can do that too. So being just really specific about what your projects are and the scope of work and selling to that. And it comes right back to what we were saying about being able to say no to projects, that there's a whole bunch of clients out there that just are happy to hire you to do a mechanical and consistent and high quality thing. And don't need a lot of the bells and whistles, right? For years, I thought that the only way I was keeping clients was by adding on the bells and whistles. But it turns out you can't scale an agency like that. You can't scale an agency that everything is a little bit different, smells a little bit different, delivered a little bit different. And the objection I hear from a lot of agencies that initially hear this, they'll say, well, Mike, I'm just building websites. So what do you mean? What do you mean by a snowflake project? How can a website be different? Well, and I'll tell you how. It's okay. This website is built on WordPress. This other one's going to be on Wix. Okay, this one's going to use is an e-commerce shop, and this is going to be using WooCommerce plugin. But there's this other client that wants to use Shopify, and on Tuesdays we can't ship because the shipper doesn't come to this part of town, and we have these cold things that need to be stored in a certain way and shipped, and those cost extra to ship, but they buy that product. It's just, and this client wants a report every Tuesday, and this client wants to hear once a month, and this client I never talk to. There's all these different ways of doing things that it's death by paper cut. It doesn't seem very much at one time, but we start delivering these projects in a very inconsistent way, and then it gets expensive, and it doesn't get the client results, and like, who's keeping track of all this stuff, right? And so, like, I know you asked a question about pricing, but I think it's really important to understand that you can't determine the investment you're asking your clients to make unless you have a clear idea of your costs. You can't have a clear idea of your costs if you don't have a clear idea of processes. And I believe that most agencies never even get to this conversation because they somehow believe that they're unique and snowflakes, right? That their way of doing it and their black book is so special. And then they build all these like really complex situations for themselves, and then they can't scale, they can't hand off, they can't delegate. And then they wonder why their earning potential is capped. And so it's like, I guess where I took a page out of it, like I said, McDonald's before, and like, if you could just admit the idea that there is a process that they follow to everything they do. And there are people that are willing to line up around the world to buy that thing. And it's like, I still believe that that's true for agencies, but like, if your goal in life is to be a boutique, just specialty agency, like that's kind of not the model that we followed. But I can tell you help a lot of people by helping them do the consistent things consistently.
I think something that's underestimated is the cost of the learning curve, exactly as you mentioned with the snowflake. I mean, I often ask clients, what is their Big Mac? So I love that you use McDonald's. People do look down on it, but there's a reason there's tens of thousands of McDonald's all around the world. You know what you're going to get. And the pricing is pretty similar. So, now you two guys have both got big personalities, but only one of you plays a trombone. AJ, I couldn't find out too much about you, but I'm sure you play a marimba. What's it, a marimba, or I don't know what you play. But how do you use personal branding to drive this business? Because if it seems that you guys are the face of the business, and you've only got so many hours in the day, and how does this help or constrain your potential growth?
Did you want me to take that one, or you want to jump on it?
Go ahead. I mean, you're bigger the face. So.
Yeah. I mean, I ask because I do geek out on this kind of stuff and personal branding. I'm very fascinated by it. And, I think the best example of, everyone has a personal brand. Right. Everyone's got it, every business. And you've probably heard the example of, we don't think of Tesla, we think of Elon Musk. We don't think of Apple computers, we think of Steve Jobs, and he's been dead for more than a decade. Right. And the truth is, people don't do business with brands anymore. They do business with people. And honestly, I think that's been the case historically, except for maybe the last 100 years or so. Right. And so it used to be that if you wanted to know about a business and you needed a recommendation, you enter the village and talk to the other villagers, and they would make recommendations about how to solve a problem or do whatever. Enter radio and television in the early 20th century, and suddenly now we have this virtual village that we get to get recommendations from nationwide. And just these last 75 to 100 years, we've had this situation where there's supposedly the trust in this big speaker telling you what to do and what to trust. And with the advent of the internet and social media, that whole scheme has gone back to what it used to be, right? And so I don't think we're, barring any other major technological shift, I just don't think we're ever going to be going back to a situation where there's one dish detergent, or there's one soda, or there's one company to use, because we're getting recommendations at such a micro level again, but also internationally, which is just incredibly fascinating. I think the takeaway is that everyone should recognize, no matter what you do or where an organization you are, you have a personal brand. And you just pointed it out. You just told me that I play trombone, and I have since at fourth grade. I play in a sick ska band. It's called Swigfoot, SWIGFOOT. Check it out. We stream everywhere it streams. We're awesome, not going to lie. But did you know that AJ is an accomplished DJ, right? And the reason you might not know that is you might not be following him in the places where he talks about that. And, quite frankly, between the two of us, I speak a lot more things about what I'm doing, than he does right now. And there's no right or wrong to it, by the way. It's like, it's much as you want to do, but understand that if you want people to know what it is you do, and I think you should, because especially if you're in business, people don't do business with you unless they know what it is you do. I mean, that's very basic. But understand that what you don't share is equally as important what you do, because they're evaluating and judging you either way. So wouldn't you rather be in control of other people's opinions, or do you want them to jump to their own conclusions about it? And so I think, posting and being on social has been a love-hate relationship for me. Like, I mostly love it because like I said, I'm very fascinated by it and its ability for you to have an impression of me before we've even met, right? I think that's such a neat thing, and I don't know why I find it so interesting. But at the same time, a lot of people get buried and overwhelmed by that idea. And I have too. And like on my phone, like right now, I don't have Facebook on. I haven't had Facebook on my phone for months. When I need to, I go on Facebook, but I go on desktop, and desktop is a much crappier way to use Facebook than the phone. And because I get overwhelmed by the things that I see other people doing. And so I need to, for me, I need to shut that out. And I've been very intentional about the times that I use it. And I'm fortunate to the point where our company has grown, where our team, we have a Slack channel called content team, and I put my content there, and they help put stuff out there for me and help craft what those things are. And that's allowed me to have sanity and also not feel like I'm glued to my phone 24/7. Like and people get mad at me, and sometimes AJ does too, of like, did you see my text? I'm like, sorry, dude. Yeah, I'll look at it right now. And it's like, because I really, I go in and out of these periods of time where I'm on it, and other times where I just really want to not be a part of that. But I think that aside, personal branding is such a huge mega weapon for all of us if you're just willing to show up consistently. And I have a story related to that if you want me to go into it that I think would be relevant, but I'll pause there in case there's questions.
Well, I obviously been in branding for the last 20 years, and I love it. But I don't think there are going to be any more mega brands. I think the ones that are already out there, Coca-Cola, Unilever, etc., they're going to stay. I call them sort of brand royalty. The rest of the plebs, etc., they've already got the high ground. They've already got the enormous real estate. And this is why the importance of personal brands comes in, because we're going back to that village structure that you mentioned. So I would love to do a whole podcast just talking about the death of, all of these business schools are trying to push that to become the next GE. Nobody says, I want to work at GE. Nobody says I want to work at these companies anymore. They're selling those brand concepts and those marketing concepts, and you're going to fail. You don't have radio and television where that is the only channel. You've got now millions and millions of influencers. You've got fantastic small little, I don't even call them brands, personal individual brands that are growing. And I think the likes of Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Kraft, etc., are going to be the big manufacturing machines behind, where they're going to say, what product is cool now? Okay, pink is cool and it smells like tulips. That's going to be for 3 months. When that sells out and it dies and the next thing comes in, our production facilities can just add a new line and create something else. That's the future of branding, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it definitely democratizes access to that. But I think you're right. Basically, the people who are the big personal brands, you mentioned Joe Rogan earlier. It's like the people who are these bigger brands that are coming up. The question is, can they be bought, right? And can they be programmed to say the thing that somebody else wants them to say, right? And I think we're seeing that potentially play out right here in the political stuff. That I listened to that same, I believe the same one that you might have heard, and Joe Rogan reportedly did not get paid to endorse Trump. At least that's what he said. And then there's speculation that, Beyonce and other people did get paid to endorse Harris. What that says is that there's potentially, Beyonce's not a Coca-Cola, but she's certainly a big brand. Which ones are for sale and which ones aren't, and which ones can you trust and which ones are you not, or do you care, right? And I think it's clear that media is changing. I personally wonder how long it'll be before the likes of CNN and Fox and MSNBC and those big networks shift to a Joe Rogan format, right? Like they ditched that whole talking head with multiple personalities, people you have no idea who the hell any of these people are, but they look important because they're wearing a suit.
Why
and
do you
there's a
think
city.
Gutfeld and these
Right.
guys get more views than the whole of CNN's? Because they're talking with people and it's sort of almost sort of spontaneous
real.
and more real. CNN is and MSNBC, their numbers have declined, etc. Even though they've got 4 years of Trump to look forward to. So I mean, this should have been cash money for them, but nobody listens to them because they're not authentic. And the thing with old Rogan, love him or hate him, you can tell he's authentic, and you can sniff if somebody's inauthentic because there's so many fact checkers. If you go onto X, everything is community noted.
Right.
Thank heavens for X and the likes of Rogan and so on. But the branding space is we'll have a separate chat on branding. So we could obviously we can chat for a long time here, but I want to just go into the last thing, which is who is your ideal client? Who is going to get most value out of chatting to you, and where can I send them?
Yeah, 100%. For AgencyCoach, it's usually a locally focused agency. So, our agency here in Tucson, Arizona, primarily works with people that are here in Tucson. Now, that's changed a bit since we've gone off and done things with like Russell Brunson and people like that. We've done a lot of sites outside of here, but most of the people that we work with are serving a local small businesses that are also targeting local as well. It could be somebody that's doing it on the side as a freelancer that wants to make this a full-time thing. It could be somebody that's like a solopreneur that's getting burnt out and is realizing they own a job, not an agency, but they want to own an agency. Or it could be someone that's like us that just, maybe they have a team, but they're still battling with the whole payroll thing and they want a more stable company. Those are the types of people that we serve, and we have solutions for all of them.
Awesome. So I'll stick those links in the bio so folks can click on that. And the last question I've got is, how tall is Tony Robbins?
He's big,
so I thought maybe
man.
you guys are really short or something, but that guy looks like a dinosaur.
Have you seen the movie Shallow Hal? Where he meets Jack Black in the elevator, and he's like, "You got banana hands." It's like, it's true. They are banana hands. And when we met him, I asked him, I'm like, "Can I give you a hug?" And he's like, "Sure." I felt like a small baby in the arms of its mother.
Awesome. Well, AJ and Mike.
Mike's like, what are you, Mike? Like 6'1"? So he's
about 6
Holy
feet.
crap.
The dude's a giant, no doubt. Like, I think he's like probably medically classified as a giant. So
yeah, that guy's big. Well, AJ and Mike, this has been great. I'm sure we could chew the fat a bit longer, but I think we've given some really good insights to folks who want to improve their current business just by listening to this, but they can get tremendously more value from chatting to you and getting some individualized insights for their business. So thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you.
I really do appreciate your comments. So why not go and watch this live on YouTube, or go to my website, kuhne.no. That's KUHNE.no for more information.